I just feel bad for Green Bay Packers fans, man, for many reasons. Just going to the NFC Championship every year and losing, that can't be fun. One of the things I wanted to talk about was Matt LaFleur's. Before we get into Matt LaFleur's idiotic play call on 4th and goal with just over 2 minutes left. You have Aaron Rodgers, right? And you're not going for it. Hell, then you can say you're going down swinging because Kevin King was getting lit up all game, and you can blame the refs all you want. It doesn't take away from the fact that Matt LaFleur still called this play. It's not like the ref slid him $5 and said, "Hey, call this, go for a field goal here, and let Tom just chip away at the clock and rip apart your defense in these last 2 minutes." So, I mean, I think we're all going to be in agree. I think we're all going to agree here. But this is the New Guys podcast. We're bound to disagree. So I want to hear what you guys think about this play call.
I have a bit of a theory behind why he may have done what he did. So how much time was left? There was what, 3:30, 4 minutes, something like that?
I think there had to have been like just over 2 minutes. I feel like it was just before the 2-minute warning.
So let's say under 3 minutes. If you go for it, okay, let's say you go for that, you score the touchdown, you get the 2-point conversion, it'd be a tie game, right? They were down by 8. Now you're giving Tom Brady the ball back in his 2-minute drill, prime Tom Brady. That's where he thrives, right? That's probably something Matt LaFleur doesn't want to do there, right? If you go for it and you don't get it, you at least pin them. If you kick the field goal, I should say, like he did, at least then Brady's put into a position where he just needs to run the clock out, and you're not going to have him trying to push it down the field. So maybe in addition, you don't want to go to overtime with Tom Brady in a playoff game. So maybe the idea was if we kick the field goal here, we make Tom Brady have to play the clock. He's not going to be dotting us up, which he kind of did, but there was more running than they would have if they were tied up. And then if we get that ball back, it's in the hands of Aaron Rodgers. If we don't get it, we lose the game. If we get it, we win the game. There's no overtime. I think that's kind of maybe what he was thinking. And I don't think in hindsight it wasn't a good move because they lost, but that thinking kind of makes sense. I mean, if you go for that and you don't get it, I mean, I think it was logical for them to go for it just because if you don't get it, you pin them back. If you do get it, it's a tie game. But the logic of you don't want Tom Brady with the ball with the ability to win the game in regulation is probably the thought process. But I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I think it was pretty stupid. I mean, I understand that point of view where you don't want to give Tom Brady the opportunity to go win the game. But I mean, I feel like you'd rather be in the position where you want to stop him from winning the game rather than you need to get this stop and stop him from just getting a couple of first downs. Like the other way, he would just have to go at least 50, 60 yards down the field to put them in scoring position. I think you go for it and you don't get it. Like you said, you pin them back there at whatever it was, like the 6-7 yard line. That's pretty difficult regardless of who you're playing, really, besides the Chiefs. So I just think it's a bad call. You could say like he went off a chart or whatever. He went off of like whatever what you're technically supposed to do in that situation.
Ability, yeah.
Right. I guess hindsight's 2020, but I really don't think it was a good move, especially like given that on the third down, Rodgers had a wide open lane to the end zone.
Yeah.
And decided to try to throw it across his body to some guy right on the goal line, surrounded by like 3 defenders.
It was Adams, I think.
Yeah, I think it was just a bad move. I get it, but I don't think in that situation that's really what you should be doing, especially in a playoff game against Brady.
Yeah.
I'm similar to you guys where like I understand the call. I just think it was the wrong call. There was just over 2 minutes left. You're putting a lot of trust in, the Buccaneers offense to fail to convert on first down. They were in the red zone. They should have just gone for it and obviously, like you guys said, with hindsight, they lost. So it's even easier to say that, but I just think it was the wrong call. Didn't really put them in the best position.
Yeah.
So do you think this has to do with Matt LaFleur not trusting Aaron Rodgers in this position? Because the next point I was going to go into is where does Aaron Rodgers go from here? Because obviously they drafted Jordan Love for some reason. It was like, hey, we're going to run it back with Aaron Rodgers one more year. He's finally got some talent around him. Let's try and get him to the chip this year. And if we win it, we win it. We don't, we move on. So do you think I think this really is going to drive Aaron Rodgers out of Green Bay, just because his coach didn't give him the opportunity to. It's like you go down swinging, right? You gotta go down with honor. Like, and if you go for it there and you don't get it, your receiver drops it in the end zone. Okay, that gives you the fuel to want to come back the next year and run it back again with this team. But the fact that you kicked the field goal and you didn't give Aaron Rodgers the chance to score the game-winning touchdown within 2 minutes of regulation to send them to beat Tom Brady and go to the NFC championship, go to the Super Bowl, win the NFC championship. That just seems like LaFleur trusted his defense more than Aaron Rodgers, and I think that's stupid, knowing that Brady was kind of torching them up the whole game. I mean, Brady threw for almost 300 yards. Yes, he had the 3 touchdowns and 3 picks, but at the same time, he was still getting the ball down the field easily. So that's just my take on it.
I think it's.
Yeah. Go ahead,
Sorry,
Brett.
Jordan. Go ahead. I'm thinking like you could put a lot of it on LaFleur, but at the same time, there were 2 Tom Brady picks in a row where Green Bay went 3 and out, just 3 passes, 3 incompletions, or whatever. Didn't get the first down, and had to punt the ball away. So I mean, you could put it on LaFleur, you could put it on the offensive coordinator, whether or not they're trying to force the ball to Devontae Adams or whatever it is. But you can't be not capitalizing on those turnovers that Tom Brady has, because they really had every chance to win that game. It's pretty tough when you look back at it, thinking Tom Brady had this horrible second half, and I was at work looking at it and thinking like he's basically letting them back in this game, and he did, but they weren't able to capitalize on it. That's really where they lost the game, in that third quarter there, where they weren't able to capitalize. So I know there was some news today that Rodgers is asking for a new contract. I think he's trying to see where Green Bay's at. If they re-sign him to a longer deal, they're going to have to get rid of Jordan Love probably. But if they don't, then he'll know that they're looking to move on from him at some point in the future. So I think from his point of view, it's kind of he's trying to test where they're at. I think he'd be happy to move on if it came to that. But I guess they'll have to see. Not really too sure. I mean, I'd be pretty pissed off if I was him. I think. I don't know. Consistently coming up short for the past 10 years has to be pretty frustrating.
I think if this was a situation where he was expiring this year, you could see him maybe move on. But to put it in the hands of the GM to trade Aaron Rodgers, I kind of feel like it's like if last year, it's not to that extent because Brady is, a generational, like he's won more than Aaron Rodgers, but it's kind of like if last year Brady had one more year left. You look at it and you're like, well, we got knocked out in the wild card. Should we just trade Tom Brady? Like, I think people would say, no, just keep him. So I feel like this isn't a situation where the game was lost, like Pat was saying, because of one person. I mean, Rodgers had multiple chances to capitalize on turnovers, went 3 and out. The defense allows a touchdown with 5 seconds left in the second quarter. Gets burned over the top, which you just can't do. LaFleur's bad play calling, there's blame all around. So if Rodgers is going to play the victim card and act like, we lost the game because of play calling in the defense, I mean, that's just not right. But Rodgers didn't have he had a good game. He didn't have a great game by any means. He's not the reason why, or he can't put all the blame on the defense and the coach. So I think you see him back next year. And we were talking about certain trade scenarios in the chat earlier this week, and it's going to be interesting to see if they do field offers what they're going to get, because a lot of people are like, well, he's an old quarterback and stuff, which is true, but if he's an MVP, he's going to win MVP probably. I mean, if you're not counting you shouldn't count playoff performances for MVP. So if you're just counting regular season, he should be the MVP. So I mean, people are saying you're not going to get a first, you're not going to get blah blah blah. I mean, whoever gets him becomes probably a Super Bowl contender, to be completely honest. I mean, you're putting a top 5 quarterback on that team, maybe the best quarterback in the league, even if it is for 1 year. So if a team isn't willing to give up a first for a shot at the Super Bowl, I mean, if I were the Patriots, I'd give up the 15th right now and trade for Aaron Rodgers if that's the case. I don't know if that is what the asking price is, but maybe that's a hot take. But I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't.
You'd have to throw together some sort of package, maybe that 15th Gilmore and something else probably of high value. But I wanted to touch on something I was talking about last week from this game. Green Bay had 2 total turnovers. They had the Aaron Rodgers interception and the Aaron Jones fumble. And Tom Brady was able to capitalize he was able to score 2 touchdowns. I don't know if it was 2 touchdowns or a touchdown and a field goal, whatever. He was able to score both times off of those turnovers. And did I not say that last week that the difference in this game would be Tampa getting those turnovers? Yes, I said it wouldn't be no easy task against Aaron Rodgers. They weren't going to get him to throw no 3 interceptions.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were still able to get the turnovers, and Tommy just did what he had to do. And I feel like Aaron Rodgers should have really won this game because that defense created 3 interceptions, 3 turnovers against Tampa, and he wasn't able to score on any of them. So, for anyone blaming the refs out there, you can't. 3
There
interceptions.
were some bad calls, but it was kind of like both ways. But
Yeah, but 3 interceptions, that's points right there. You got to get points off of those.
yeah, no, I mean, I understand that, but I mean, I think the big thing that comes out of this game, I don't know, I'll throw it over to Dylan after this, but the Bucs defense, like I was one saying that I didn't think the Bucs defense could repeat what they did against Breeze, because as good as Breeze is, there's a huge difference between Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees right now. So I'm thinking Rodgers doesn't make the same mistakes that Breeze made. It's just not going to happen, and he did. And you can't play the, Breeze can't throw, and because Rodgers is the MVP, he shouldn't be turning the ball over that many times. But the Bucs defense is forcing those turnovers. So, I mean, the big thing for me with the Bucs at the beginning of the playoffs was they don't have the defensive capabilities to help Tom Brady. And that was just, I think that was relevant at the beginning of the playoffs because they weren't forcing turnovers like they were. Now you've got Brady capitalizing on every single pick pretty much in the past 2 weeks, or turnover overall, which is a huge plus for them going into the Super Bowl because you're going to need turnovers against Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to be, I don't think no one's going to slow down Patrick Mahomes, but if you can get a pick or 2 on him or a fumble on Clyde Edwards or whatever, that can change the game totally. And the Bucs defense, to me, is the MVP of the playoffs so far.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, only because I was the same way going to the playoffs. I thought that the Buccaneers defense really didn't have what it takes to take the Buccaneers all the way against teams like the Packers and, I mean, even the Saints. And they did. And I got to give, props to Tom Brady and everybody on the Buccaneers offense because, as you said, they capitalize off the turnovers that they force. And that's the difference maker, especially in the playoffs. If you are forcing, like the Packers, if you're getting these turnovers but you're not scoring off of them, they're just waste of time, like empty possessions. And though I'm pretty sure, I guess 2 out of the 3 picks that the Packers got off of Tom Brady on Sunday, they really weren't the best field position. But at the end of the day, those are still possessions that you have to score on, and they didn't. So, for people to say that, the refs cost them the game, they cost them the game. They sold the game themselves. Obviously, it was a winnable game. They just didn't capitalize when they needed to, and that's their problem. I don't really know if the, field goal was a, byproduct of LaFleur not trusting Rodgers, or if he just thought it was just a better idea, down the stretch. But from there, I don't really know where Rodgers will end up because I just feel like any team that needs a quarterback, is he a free agent this season?
Rodgers, he's got 1 more year.
Oh, he's got 1 more year. So they're going to have to give up a pretty large package in order to bring him onto the team. I just feel like his best situation to run it back and try to win is the Packers. That's how I see it.
Yeah.